Welcome everybody to the Mind, Body, and Soul television show coming to you live from our Denver, Colorado internet studios. I'm your host, Coach Steve Toad, as well as the founder of Conscious Evolution Media, going on more than 12 years now and more than 15,000 shows, and we are no longer counting because it makes no sense. We have an absolutely intriguing and fantastic guest with us this evening. His name is Rob Guttrow. He is an author, a medium, a paranormal investigator, as well as by trade, he's a meteorologist. I have a trouble with that word. Help me out here.
Meteorologist.
Meteorologist.
Yes.
My tongue is just not working with that word. And he's a scientist. But before we really get into the theme tonight, which is how ghosts and spirits communicate with us, I want to ask you, Rob, if I take away all of those titles that I just mentioned, including all the other titles that anybody has ever called you, if I take it all away, if I was that powerful, of course I'm not, but if, let's say if I was, what's left? Who is really Rob Guttrow?
Basically an average guy who enjoys life, and I love animals, and I work with dog rescue, and we actually have 3 dogs and a foster dog, and we've been doing that for about 7 years. So life is a gift, no matter human or canine or any other animal. It doesn't matter.
Awesome. Well, thank you. That's a fantastic response. So what's interesting, about our theme this evening is that a lot of people, I would say, in the last 10 years or maybe the last 15 years, people are more comfortable talking about subjects that are not necessarily, how human beings are so used to just working with the 5 senses. The subject that we're talking about tonight or this evening goes beyond our 5 senses, right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
So how did you get involved in this anyway? Give us a short story about Rob's life. Like, don't begin at birth, but just give us the short version.
The Reader's Digest version.
Uh-huh.
Well, basically, my interest in the paranormal happened when I was a teenager, and it was quite by accident, unexpectedly. After my grandfather passed, I actually saw him materialize in front of me 6-7 months after he died, and I was frightened. Of course, I was the only one home, and I waited for my parents to come home. I told my mother and father, as I told them everything, and my mother was not surprised. It turns out that she has the ability, or she had it. My grandfather had it, and we have a relative that used to help solve crimes with police in Massachusetts who also had it. So, although my mother was afraid of it, I embraced it, because on the other side, they're just people or pets.
So do you feel that we all have this ability, and it's only the people like yourself and others that are open to it have been able to access it? Do you think everybody's got it?
I think everybody has the ability to develop it. I have found that some people are genetically predisposed to it. It can run in families, in other words. But everybody can learn how to be more receptive to signals. And I find that a higher emotional level and an openness allows people to feel those signals.
Well, those are as far as I can tell, but what do I know? I don't know anything, but just my experience in my own life is openness is the foundation of consciousness.
Absolutely.
And so what you're doing and what you've been doing, and how long you've been doing this?
Well, I guess as more of an active hobby, since about 2010. I published a book in 2009 about my experiences, and when I started talking about them to different groups and so forth, I was invited to join Inspired Ghost Tracking in Maryland, and I've become one of the mediums on staff.
Oh, wow. So let's clear this up, because I have received many different explanations of what a medium is. What's your version, Rob?
Well, I consider myself a medium rare because I'm not really well done, and
that's how I like my meat.
Right.
So that's good.
Um, uh, a medium is basically just someone who can sense the energies that are around us and communicate with people or animals that have passed. And the animals I'm talking about are the ones that are domesticated, the ones that have lived among humans. Because I couldn't understand anything like, for instance, a lion would tell me, because they're not domesticated. They don't know our language. But pets, on the other hand, like dogs and cats, they do.
Gotcha. So, I mean, this is a subject that really interests me because I'm an animal lover myself. I have a dog, I have a cat, and I have a parrot. So, I mean, I'm talking to them all the time. They're talking to me. Well, my dog doesn't really talk to me, other than he barks at me. But my cat talks to me. If I was with her all the time, she would be talking to me 24/7. I'm convinced. And she meows, and all those meows mean something. And I'm beginning to figure out what they mean somewhat. Like I can tell when she's mad at me. Like if she runs out of food, that's a different meow,
Yes.
and I know what that means. And then when she wants to be loved, like in the morning, as soon as she hears me um, that I'm awake, she immediately wants to be petted and wants to be loved. And if I don't do it, then she will get mad at me.
You'll hear about it.
Yeah, yeah. So I mean, it's just really interesting, and the parrot has his own different things that he does, but it's I love the animal kingdom because I have this intuition that they more conscious than most of us somehow, and the reason I'm saying this is because they not tuned into like we are into the past and into the future. They're just being in the now. They don't care about time.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? So or for me, they are a perfect example of what I am following in my life. Like time doesn't mean a whole lot to me anymore. The only reason I still keep time so that I could have the show with you and with others. But other than that, I really have no use for time.
Live in the now. That's
Yeah, yeah,
much it.
yeah. So tell me, Rob, can you use these abilities that you have, the way you communicate with people and animals that have passed on? How do you use that ability in your living life, like in your everyday living life, in terms of with people and with animals? Can you use it, or is this just for the afterlife?
Basically, being a medium is getting messages from the afterlife and passing them on to the living. Whatever earthbound ghost, and there's a difference, by the way, about what happens after we die. Um, we can either stay earthbound as a ghost, or we can cross over, join the energies of the cosmos or heaven or Valhalla, whatever you want to call it, as a spirit. And we make that choice when we go on the other side. Um, But being a medium, I can only get messages from those who passed and share them with those that they're intended for, who are still living.
Interesting. So, give me one of the examples of your experiences that really stand out to you, like you were at an awe.
Oh boy, there's been a lot of experiences. Are you talking about human or animal?
It doesn't matter. Doesn't matter.
It
But
doesn't
give us one of each.
Okay. um, my very first animal experience was back in 2011. I was at a medium session with medium Barb Mallon, and I gave a talk about how spirits communicate from the other side. And the spirit of this little Chihuahua named Chico came to me, and he told me his name was Chico. I mean, dogs know their name. We know that because we call them and they come. Um, he told me that he was with a large black dog, which I envisioned as a Labrador Retriever, and that he was teaching that Labrador Retriever how to be a better dog. And you can ask spirits on the other side who they belong to. Well, he didn't say anything for a while, and then when there was a break, I got a nuzzle from him, and he pointed me to a woman, and I stopped her when she was coming out for the break, and I asked her about the dog, and I said, "Do you know a Chihuahua named Chico, little beige Chihuahua?" And she said that's her grandmother's dog, who passed away last year. And I said, "Well, do you notice that? Do you have a big black dog?" And she said, "Yes, I have a black lab." And I said, "Do you notice that that black lab is behaving differently since Chico passed?" And she said, "As a matter of fact, I did notice the dog is behaving much better, and I couldn't understand why because I haven't trained him." And I said, "Well, Chico has come to me to tell me that he is actually training your dog from the afterlife."
Huh, wow.
So that was my first experience. It was pretty amazing.
Oh, that's pretty cool. Yeah.
Um,
So are you completely convinced, Rob, that because this is a big question of humanity, what happens, after we pass on? First of all, most people resist the fact that we're not going to be here forever, right? So they don't really want to talk about it. And most people have a miserable time when they go to somebody's passing, right? Because they just reminded that somebody that they love just is gone, and that this is going to happen to them someday. Matter of fact, I told my youngest son the other day when I played tennis with him that I'm giving you an order and a request right now. When I pass, and I'm going to write this down into my will. When I pass, I want everyone to be in white, not in black. If they are in black, they are not allowed to come. And I want Led Zeppelin to be played as you start,
Awesome.
whatever you're gonna start. But I want a party, okay, and I want everybody to rock. I don't want them crying. I mean, if they want to cry, fine, I don't care. But I want them to cry because of the joy they're feeling, not because they're sad.
That's a good way to look at it. And actually, it's basically just another step to life. And my basis for all of that is that we are all energy. We have a lot of physical energies that go through our bodies, and we have a lot of when we have a thought, it's a little electrical impulse in our brain that can be measured. So where does that energy go when we die? It transforms our memories, our personality, either stays earthbound as a ghost or crosses over, and that's just the next step.
Well, they go into the Akashic records, don't they?
What's that?
All of our thoughts go into the Akashic records.
Yeah.
There's this big library in the universe that keeps track of everything.
And I do know we come back. Until we learn our lessons, until we achieve perfection, whatever that is. But I do know the guy that cut me off in traffic today, he's coming back.
So are you absolutely convinced, Rob, that there is afterlife? The way I want to ask you this is, how people need proof that there is afterlife, because most people don't believe. Most people just have this, I guess I would call hope, that when we pass, we don't completely disappear into nothingness. But most people really question it. They don't really know. Nobody knows. Nobody has been able to prove what really happens.
That's true. The only thing we can prove are that we get messages from people and pets that passed that absolutely confirm their identity, and that things that I would never know about complete strangers. But one important aspect about the afterlife is that I've learned is that people do not need to be religious. Religion actually has nothing to do with the afterlife. If you understand science and you know what energy is, then you would understand that there's an afterlife, because energy has to go somewhere. So it doesn't matter what religion you are, or if you're not a religion.
Yeah. Well, yeah, we don't do religion on this network.
No.
Or politics.
Those are two good things to avoid.
Yeah. So great. So okay. So you never really answered my question. So you kind of have, but not what I really wanted. So are you convinced yourself? I'm just asking about you, that there is life after that.
Yes, I am. I think I've talked to enough.
You're absolutely 100% convinced.
Yes, I've talked to enough
Okay.
dead people and dead pets to know that there is something beyond what we can see.
Okay. So I have a dog that passed away a while back. Is it unrealistic for me or unfair to ask you to see if you can contact him?
No, it's certainly not unfair. Usually, though, when I'm thinking about something else, like being interviewed, it's hard for me to get messages.
Yeah. Well, this is not really an interview. This is a conscious dialogue. We're just
Right.
having a conversation. You know,
Yeah.
I
When
don't
I'm
do I
focusing
don't do interviews.
when I'm focusing on something else, it's hard. So actually, people send me emails all the time, and when I'm able to concentrate,
Uh,
I get a lot of messages.
okay, gotcha. All right. So let's talk about I still want to go back to pets because pets are very intriguing to me. Um, what what are these animals like? I have quite a few of them. So what are they thinking about? Like when they're with us. Like I see my dog looks at me
Hmm.
and he looks at me in a certain way that when he does that, I melt and I cannot say no. What is he thinking?
He's thinking, "What can I get?" um,
Okay.
One of the things that I explained in my book "Pets in the Afterlife" is how dogs. I use dogs as a baseline because dogs are a lot more trainable than cats.
Yeah, for
Um,
sure.
but the Dr. Stanley Coren is a doctor of veterinary medicine that wrote a couple of books, The Intelligence of Dogs and How Dogs Think. And he outlined a number of different levels in which they have intelligence, um, whether it be instinctual learning or behavioral learning, emotional learning. There's all different levels of learning that dogs experience. Um, and then he also ranked dogs by the level of intelligence. So border collies were, of course, number one. Um, I think poodles were number two, and and so forth and so on. And that's based on how much you can train them. I know that there's a border collie. I think his name is Chase or Chaser, that has actually memorized over 1,000 words and
Wow.
knows the difference between action words, verbs, and so forth versus nouns. So you can actually say, "Put your paw on object B," and he'll go over and put his paw on object B, or you'll say, "Go over it, pick up um, the bunny," and he'll go over and pick up a stuffed bunny. So he understands these things. So dogs have a tremendous amount of intelligence and emotional intelligence too. Um, that's one thing that some people are surprised by. You know, when I was a kid, we kept hearing that dogs and cats and animals have no soul, and that's absolutely nonsense. Everything has a soul. Every living thing has a soul and a conscience and a consciousness and
And,
emotions.
yeah, and I was always also told that cats and dogs don't get along, and that's BS.
Right. And you have both, right?
Yeah, because they get along just fine. I mean, they cuddle, they kiss each other, they do, you know, they don't even know. I'm not even sure that they know that they're cats or dogs. I have no idea.
Well, I've seen cats behave like dogs, and
I just wish so many times that I wish I could talk to them somehow. I could communicate with them. But you're saying that that's a possibility from from beyond.
from beyond it, well, there is a difference. A medium is someone that communicates with animals and people who passed, but the animal communicators actually can study your animal and try and figure out what exactly they want or what they're thinking. So they're more behaviorists. Um, but I'm not an animal communicator. I only talk to dead people.
And okay, so now I got to ask you this. What are the lessons that you learned from talking to the dead people? Because you have a book about this, right?
Yes, lessons learned from talking to the dead.
Uh,
A lot of lessons, and most of them are pretty much common sense. And one is, first and foremost, is that every single one of us are the same. We're all equal, and we need to be treated equally. It doesn't matter what size you are, what age you are, what color you are, what race, religion, non-religion, doesn't matter. We're all the same, and we have to have the same respect for each other. And when we don't, we basically deal with that on the other side. Once we pass, we know whether or not we treated people well or not, and that may cause people to stay behind for a little while. So that's the most important lesson I've learned. And it's something to keep in mind every day. And, it's really hard for a lot of people to remember that. I was talking about the guy that cut me off today. It was hard for me not to get a little irritated by him. But, maybe he was rushing to the hospital. Who knows?
Well, we talk about this a lot on this network, that it's, that our life is kind of one of the main purpose of our lives is to be able to enjoy it, and to experience joy and to experience peace. And how I translate that is to be able to be peaceful is that we have complete control over everything that happens and how we react to it. And so I keep monitoring myself, and just to see how peaceful I can be with the things that are happening around me. So to stop myself, react, and just pause and take a deep breath, and to say, okay, because what that tells me, if I want to react to something immediately, like, I don't know what you wanted to do when the guy cut you off, but I remember when I was younger, I would probably flip him off. Now you can or yell at them or whatever, but you can create a different result. I mean, it's up to us, right?
Absolutely, yes. And if people find they're being stressed, just walk away and think about how you're going to react rather than reacting off the cuff.
Right, because our frequency will change immediately.
Yes.
It will go down, and it's a spiral down. And there's nothing good that can come out of it, right?
No, and it actually builds up more tension if you start confronting people. So if you're having a bad conversation on the phone with someone, just excuse yourself and hang up. And once you hang up, then you can yell at the phone all you want. Nobody's there. But you're not creating a conflict.
Yeah, I actually have done that before. I actually said somebody was yelling at me, and I just interrupted and said, I'm sorry, but I'm having some difficulty how this conversation is going right now. So I'd like to suggest that we just hang up and come back to it at a later time. And thank you so much, and I'll talk to you later. Bye.
That's perfect.
And I also have done the other, which is I continued, I engaged, and I because I had a very strong mother when I was growing up. I had this issue with strong women, and I would engage with them and fight them, like the way I was fighting my mother. I was very rebellious when I was growing up. And then one day, this light bulb went off for me, and I said, why am I fighting these women? There's a much better way to deal with this, which is I'm going to make them my friends, and I'm going to love them and make them my friends.
Did that work for you?
They're a great resource. Yeah, it's working. No wonder we have so many women on our network, and strong, powerful women, because I like them. I changed my mind about them.
I'm sure they're all glad to hear that right now.
Well, yes. And you see, there's something to be, and I've been divorced twice. So there's something to be said for, that thing in relationship, which is about not knowing what your partner's personal buttons are. And it doesn't matter if it's male, female, male, female, female, it makes no difference. we all have these buttons, and I just feel so strongly after learning some things about this is that when let's say I push your button, Rob, we could be just friends, but I figure out what some of your buttons are after
Mhm.
I get to know you, and I know how to push them. The first thing is uh, don't do it because it's not nice.
Right. That's a
Um,
good thing.
number one, and if somehow your partner or your friend somehow gets activated by what you say or what you do, don't take it personally. I wish I would have known all this when I was married, but I didn't. So guess what happened? It's what happens in our relationship today. Is I pushed her button, she pushed my button, and guess what? It went spiraling down, became a huge mess, and then of course uh, the makeup sex was great, but that only lasted for so long. It gets to the point where there is no makeup sex. It's gone.
And it's
It's
the
all
eject
gone. Yeah.
button. So
So I don't know how we get into this, but never mind. So uh, okay, so give us a few more examples of some of those lessons, because I think those lessons are great for humanity. By the way, I want to ask you, since you're also a scientist, um, let's pause on that question for a second. Who do we give credit to for the word human?
that's a good question. I really don't have an answer to that.
I'm not surprised. So I have asked this question probably thousands of times,
Yeah.
and nobody has an answer. Matter of fact, you can Google it, and you're not going to come up with anything.
And I think, doesn't it mean of man, or I don't know. I don't have an answer for you.
Well, somebody told me that what it means is God man.
Yeah.
The word "hu" in Sanskrit means God, but nobody can tell me. I'm not asking for a translation of what it means. I'm asking, who do we give credit to creating the word?
I don't know. I'm a meteorologist, so
Okay.
I can tell you about the weather.
But you're also a scientist. You're supposed to know these things. So
Well,
would you do me a favor? Can you ask the that people on the other side this question? Maybe they know the answer.
they're probably going to tell me to think about other things.
Okay, whatever. All right. So,
my responsibilities to other people. Or something. I don't know.
I'm just so curious. Nobody has an answer.
All right, I'll see if I can find one for you.
Okay.
What? So you mentioned other lessons. Well,
Mhm.
one of the biggest lessons I get from the other side is that of forgiveness. Um, Forgiveness is a huge lesson, and it actually affected my own family. My my mother was Italian, and she had a sister and a brother. And my mother always told me that Italians invented the word vendetta, which means they never forget and they don't forgive.
Yes, that is correct. I have a friend like that.
So,
He doesn't talk to me anymore.
see what I mean? Um,
Hmm.
so, long story short, my aunt and my mother had a love hate relationship, and when my aunt passed away, my mother never forgiven her for all the things that she had done to my mother. Um, well, my aunt came to me and after she passed and told me that she was trapped on Earth and she needs my mother's forgiveness. Um, it took 25 years for me to convince my mother to actually realize she had to forgive her sister.
Oh
And
wow.
my aunt gave me a sign that she had crossed over and was appreciative um, afterward. It was actually a musical sign. There was a song that always reminded me of my aunt, and it happened to be playing on my CD. I had a CD of it, and that week that I had convinced my mother to forgive her, I asked my aunt. I said, if you've crossed over as I think that you have, please give me a sign. Well, this one song on the entire CD skipped twice. when I was listening to it, and I said,
But CDs
"Okay."
don't skip.
Normally, well, I mean, yeah, sure, they skip, but so I said to her again. I said, "Okay." After about 30 seconds, I said, "Okay, give me that again." It skipped again 2 more times, and then it stopped. And I played that CD over and over afterward. It never skipped.
Hmm.
So, and it was only because that one particular song always reminded me of my aunt that I knew it was her. So, spirits can give messages in very uh, benign ways.
Hmm.
And music is one of them. I mean, if you turn on the radio, you're thinking of somebody, and you turn on the radio and just happen to hear a song that always reminded you of that person, it's not a coincidence. It's because that spirit influenced you to turn the radio on at that very moment, so that you would know that they are with you.
Oh wow, that's interesting. So why do spirits stay here?
Spirits actually don't stay. They come back from time to time. Ghosts stay because for a number of things. They have unfinished business. They think they can help their family get over the grief of loss. Um, a lot of ghosts I've spoken to stay because their religious beliefs say that they're not worthy of crossing over, which is absolutely untrue. That's why about I would say 70% of the ghosts that are here have done bad things in their life. The other 30% are here for other reasons. Um, Spirits come back from time to time, and I found that spirits that have crossed come back usually around birthdays, anniversaries, and holidays. And the reason for that is if you think about when you contact people that you know that are living, when do you usually call them?
Oh, only on holidays and when
Birthdays and
somebody passes
anniversaries.
away and New Year's, yeah, oh,
Yeah,
that kind of stuff.
and an anniversary, by the way, can be anything. It can be a wedding anniversary. It could be the
Hmm.
anniversary of their passing. It could be the anniversary of they got their driver's license. Anniversary is a general term, but that's when they come back from time to time to let us know they're still around.
That's interesting. All right, so tell us a little bit about this Inspired Ghost Tracking Group. When did that get formed, and how did you get involved with them, and what do you guys do?
They formed in I think 2007, and Margaret Ehrlich is the founder. And what we do is we investigate usually residential hauntings. Any residence that has a paranormal problem will usually contact the group, and we have an extensive questionnaire about you, you know because some people think they have paranormal problems and they really don't. We can go. We usually go in with a team of people with scientific equipment and two mediums, myself and our other medium, Troy, and we try to get impressions. And we try to debunk things. One of the people on the team is an architect, so he is actually able to debunk settling noises in homes.
Hmm.
Um, I can debunk other things, based on weather conditions. Um, so, because cold will cause wood to shrink, for
Hmm.
instance. Um, so we go in with scientific equipment, and the mediums go in first, get their impressions, and then the scientific team goes in for the next couple of hours and see if they can pick up anything: digital recording, electromagnetic field detector, infrared camera, digital and still cameras. So that's what
So
we do.
what have you guys picked up? Well, I mean, what's been the most interesting thing that you could or could not explain?
Um, well, the most interesting case I think by far is one that I wrote about in my lessons learned book, and I call it the double murder investigation. We went into a home, a residence that was complaining about shadow figures and things moving and noises, um, sheets being pulled off the bed, and they wanted to know what was going on in that home. So we went in there, and myself and the other medium, long story short, wound up talking to two women. At first, for the longest time, for the first hour of our investigation, we thought we were talking to the same woman. Turned out we were talking to I was talking to an older woman who was about 70. He was talking to a younger woman who was about 36. As we went through the house, we provided feelings and impressions of how they died. They were both brutally murdered in the home, as it turns out. by a guy that was renting an apartment in the basement. The women that were murdered were the mother, a woman rather that owned the house, and her daughter-in-law. And we actually got an orb, a photo of an orb, which is a rounded area of light, the simplest form a ghost can take. And in the orb, you can actually see the face of one of the women. It's it's pretty chilling, actually. So we learned that they didn't cross over because they were murdered in the house, and they wanted to stay there to protect any family from that murderer coming back. Turns out the guy was caught, and he's doing a double life sentence in Western Maryland.
Interesting. So this
Pretty,
could be this technology could be probably used in helping police.
it could. Well, the police had tracked him down and caught him years before, but there are mediums that are used in police investigations, and we just came in to find out what was going on in the house. We had no idea about the history of the house, and we have a historian on the team, and after we went through and we did our investigation, the historian sat down with us, and she confirmed every single thing we got. I mean, I felt like I was being shot. I was pushed down the stairs. I was hit in the back of the head. I was beaten. I was kicked. I felt all of these sensations, and ghosts do that. They share the pain of death, to prove who they are.
What about people that have other entities enter into them?
Like a possession kind of thing.
Yeah, something like that.
I really haven't dealt with anybody that has had a possession.
Like the poltergeist thing. I remember when I was in Italy. It's the first time I saw that movie because I'm from an Eastern European country, and
Mhm.
these movies weren't allowed there. And the first
With
one of
good
the first
reason.
one of the first movies I saw in Italy is Poltergeist. It scared the living heck out of me. Really, it really did.
Yeah, and I've only seen bits and pieces of it. But here's the interesting thing about poltergeist. A poltergeist is actually not really a ghost. It's actually energetic. It's energy that mimics a ghost or mimics ghostly activity, and it's generated usually by an emotional teenager, most often a teenage girl, but teenage boys can also do it. Um, and in three cases that we've been on, we have had poltergeist activity, and we found out that the teenage girls in each single case had some severe emotional issues. And once they got therapy, the activity stopped.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting.
So so
Do you have a
so
teenage
okay.
girl?
So so this is the Hollywood inside of me speaking now. So I've seen these movies where what they're trying to prove or say, and it's kind of interesting to me about Hollywood. The reason I'm bringing this up because there are so many things Hollywood gets involved in um, that are really not of our five senses, and
True.
as we move on with the evolution of humanity, we're finding out that movies that Hollywood has made are becoming more and more of a reality. Do you know what I mean?
Well, yeah, I can see that. Like the communicator in Star Trek. Now we call them cell phones.
Yeah, we have them. But I'm talking about for example the that there are other worlds out there, and there are supposedly ways to open the gate, as they refer to it. Like there is a gate that it can be opened, and they can enter into our realm, our
That would be
reality.
a wormhole.
Okay. Okay.
Scientifically.
So have you got involved with that kind of stuff?
No,
No.
I haven't got involved with that. But if bringing up exoplanets, as we call them, planets that are outside of the solar system, as a scientist, I know that there are literally thousands of exoplanets, and if we it, if we think that we're the only planet that sustains life, we're crazy.
Mm.
Um, that's just ridiculous. So there's life somewhere else, and that brings up another point about the paranormal, is that if there's life somewhere else and it's all about energy, those living beings have the ability to transcend the cosmos just like we do when we become a spirit.
Mm.
So I believe that some of those life forms actually come here, and those are what we call dark dark entities. You know, normally I joke and I say a dark entity is someone's mother-in-law, but in
Yeah,
reality,
but that's in this lifetime.
right.
Wow. Um,
But I love my mother-in-law, by the way.
so
Throw that in
yeah, okay,
there.
well, that's great. So in so um, somehow we got to this place. So
We
I'm going
talked
to
about
ask
exoplanets.
yeah. So I'm going to ask the questions about now. I have to ask the question about UFOs because there was a reason why we got here. So what's your belief, since you involved in energies and energy work and talking to people, dead people, beyond. What's your feeling or experience about UFOs? Do you believe that they are here with us now? Do you believe that they do exist? What do you believe?
Um, I all I can tell you is that I know that there's life somewhere else. So I wouldn't be surprised if there was life that was much more advanced than we are, that have the ability to come here. I've never had any kind of experience like that. Um, I have my hands full talking to living people and dead people, so I don't I don't concentrate on the extraterrestrials.
Well, I figured since you're already doing all of that, what's just one more thing?
Too many people to talk to.
Because it's all connected. It's all connected anyway.
True.
Okay, all right. So where are you really going with all of this? What are you trying to accomplish?
That's a great question.
Yeah.
The reason I've written 3 books now. I'm actually finishing up my 4th one, and the reason I wrote these books is to bring people understanding about what happens after we pass, and comfort that life goes on the other side in one way or the other, and to recognize signs on their own, so that they don't need to pay anybody. They don't need to go pay somebody as a medium unless they really want comfort. They can learn to do it themselves. Um, and I didn't write these books to make money from them. I wrote them just to help people, and that's what I do. And that's why when people say, can you give me a reading? I don't charge anything for readings. If people email me and someone comes through, I'll just freely give them the messages. I think we're all
Well,
here
that's
to
why
help.
you have to work as a scientist to make a living.
Right, exactly. I have to make.
Yeah.
I have to eat. Feed my dogs.
Okay.
But yeah, that's the reason I wrote it.
So it's a passion. It's a passion of yours.
It is. It's a passion.
Okay.
It's a way to help people too and bring comfort. And what's interesting too is that I've been to several wakes since my abilities really took off. And I should say before that in 2005 I lost a puppy who became the world's best canine communicator, and he inspired me to write my first book. As I was writing the book, my dad passed away, and my dad gave more signs than I could ever imagine. He drove my mother crazy the week that he passed away because he kept playing with her electricity and everything else. And then in 2005, I also met the love of my life, and we got married, and that heightened my emotional state, which made me like a beacon to the paranormal, the supernatural. So that also helped with my experiences.
Well, did you know? I mean, I mentioned before that I'm from Eastern Europe, but did you know that, for example, well, Italy is close to Eastern Europe, but did you know that, like, where I was growing up, when somebody passed away, it's a multi-day party. It goes on for 2 to 3 days.
Wow.
And same thing when somebody gets married. It's not like in this country that you go get married, have a ceremony, go somewhere and have some drinks and eat, and it's over. It goes on for several days.
Wow. Well, life is a celebration, and
Yeah.
you know how to take advantage of that. That's awesome.
And by the way, that used to be pretty scary to me because I was just a little kid. When somebody passed away, they actually put him in a coffin, but don't close him up, and they stay as part of the party. They are just basically put on as a display
For 3 days?
And, yeah.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
Okay.
And the coffin is open. It was pretty scary to me.
Yeah.
I didn't really understand. I understood back then what was going on.
I didn't either when I was a kid, but actually my latest experience you may find somewhat funny. It's tragic and funny at the same time. My mother passed in 2013 in December, and it's totally different when you can communicate with people on the other side, because it's like they're still there. So when my partner and I walked into the funeral home, I went to the casket and I looked at my mom, and I heard my mom say in my ear, she said, "I like the way they did my hair, but they didn't darken my eyebrows and they need to be fixed." And so I started laughing, and my partner came up and he said, "Do you realize you're laughing in front of your mother's casket?" And I said, well, "It's what she just said to me." So I told him, and he wasn't surprised. But that's my mother, and she's like, "Well, fix it." I'm like, "I'm not going to go in there and fix it."
That is pretty funny.
Yeah, so that's a different take on wakes for me.
Yeah, for sure. So, how would you like people to like contact you? And also, this would be a good time to give out your website and anything else that you want people to know about how they can work with you.
Okay. Well, everybody's always welcome to contact me through social media. I'm on Facebook and Twitter. If you go on Facebook and you just type in Rob Gutro, Gutro, I have 2 Facebook pages that are about ghosts and spirits, and I check each of them every week. Or you can get to me on my blog, which is called Ghosts and Spirits Insights.blogspot.com. And Twitter, I'm on Twitter too. I try everything. It's Ghost Medium Book, because all the other good stuff was taken. So.
Yeah. Well, what else is new? Okay. Fantastic. So I'm curious as to what. So the theme of the show is how ghosts and spirits communicate with us. So I just want to make sure everybody's clear about this. So do we really need a medium in order for us to really communicate with spirits and ghosts and with people from the other side? Do we need a medium?
No, we really don't. All we have to do is be aware of what signs to look for, and as I said, that's why I wrote these books. One of the easiest ways for people to get messages too is through your dreams. If someone has crossed in spirit, if they've crossed over, spirits can actually come into our dreams. If they're earthbound, ghosts for some reason cannot come into our dreams. That's what I've found. And also we need to remember that spirits are energy. Spirits can also manipulate things in nature. Birds, butterflies. They can drop pennies. Usually whenever somebody passes, you may find a coin. When you find a coin, check the year. That will give you a clue to their identity. So there's a lot of different ways that spirits can communicate. As I mentioned, when my dad passed, he played with the electricity in my mother's house for the whole week of his services. And he shorted plugs out and wouldn't let lights go on and blew fuses. So there's a lot of different ways that spirits can communicate with us. And it's just a matter of reading about it and understanding and keeping an open mind.
Yeah, that's very, very good advice. Well, I can't say that I can remember anyone in my family or close to me that have passed that have tried to communicate with me in my dreams, but lots of people that I had relationships with come into my dreams, which is kind of weird. Um, I don't know how to explain that. Uh,
Dead or living?
no, they're still living,
They're still living. Okay.
and I'm going like, what the heck? Why am I dreaming with? Why do I have dreams with these people in it? You know, those are relationships that I've had in the past, and they no longer in the present. So
Maybe it means that they're thinking of you and they're just sending some energy out for some
oh
reason.
wow, that's nice. All right, so let's see. So let's talk a little bit more about how do you see um, the paranormal and what you do in your hobby or your passion. How do you see that being connected to consciousness and to help us having a better understanding how to continue on our evolution as better human beings?
The paranormal is basically it basically is our consciousness carried over into the next life, um, and just being aware of that everything that we are here doesn't just go away is really the most important thing. Um, Knowing that also that spirits on the other side can help us make decisions, they can influence our decisions. I even mentioned the dog that was training another dog. It happens with people too. Spirits can actually influence us to do things. For instance, if you're driving in traffic, you may get the sensation to just take a different route one day, and later you will find out that the route that you normally go had a massive accident. You would have been a victim of it. It's likely because a spirit influenced you to go out of harm's way. So
Hmm.
their consciousness plays a role in your consciousness.
That's awesome. So what's coming to me right now as you were explaining this is, and I'm not sure that I have the right words to explain this to you, but help me out if you know what I'm talking about. So in my lifetime, I probably had this happen maybe 2 or 3 times, maybe 4. I probably stretch it if I say 4, where I was in a in a in a mindset, or I don't know what words to use, but I had the feeling that everything was gone. There was absolutely nothing. Um, and what I'm talking about is no past, no present, no future. It was like I was experiencing the meaning of absolutely nothing. Does that make any sense to you?
Either you're really tired, or or you or you went before the universe was even born. I would pick B.
But you have never heard this from anybody before.
No, I am not. That's interesting.
Okay, well, I'm working up the way through that. Okay, so um, tell me a little bit more about, have you had experiences with spirits or ghosts or talking to people on the other side that they have been here more than once and they were somehow explaining that to you?
That's a good question.
It's all I have is good questions.
I've caught on to that. The answer really is no. I haven't talked to anybody. The people that I usually talk to come to me in one form of personality or another. They don't usually tell me if they've lived multiple lives before. But what's interesting though is for people who are listening and watching today, that if you find yourselves drawn to something specifically that's kind of odd, like I'm drawn to the old West, the American West, 1882 specifically. Um, you
So what are you
likely
doing on the East Coast?
I've already lived on the West Coast in another life.
Oh, okay.
I went to the other side. But if you're drawn to something, like my partner is drawn to the Tudor period of England, and it's likely, very likely, that you lived at that other period of time in another location, whatever. Anything that you are just obsessed with on this side. As a matter of fact, when I went to Tombstone, Arizona, and visited for the first time in 1993, what's really weird is that I knew exactly where the courthouse building was, and I had never been there before. And this was
Hmm.
before Google Maps and all that stuff. I didn't have any. 93.
Well, I am obsessed with this. Well, I'm obsessed with Egypt, and I'm obsessed with this Egyptian god. His name is Thoth, and
Mm-hmm.
my name is Thoth, but mine is spelled as Toth. His is spelled as Thoth. It's an
Thoth.
extra H.
Interesting. Well, you very likely did live um, back in ancient Egypt. I mean,
Okay.
if you're drawn to that period, I mean, the name may be a coincidence, but
It fascinates me. I mean, when I found this information many years ago, um, I was like, how is that possible? That an Egyptian god has a very similar name to mine, and he's actually was into all this energy work and the Akashic records and all that stuff. And this is going back like thousands of years ago. But it's just fascinating to me. And
well,
and how did it happen that I came across him when I wasn't really looking? You know what I mean? I
because you
was
were
just
influenced by
I,
spirit.
I, I was just interested. I was just interested in Egypt, and my oldest son is very interested in Egypt as well. There's just something about the whole era, just it just talks volumes to me in terms of the UFO conversation I was trying to have with you,
Hmm.
and you declined it. Um,
I don't know about those. I can't speak intelligently about something I don't know about.
oh, sure you can.
That's my cop out.
I do. I do it on every show.
Oh,
There's stuff I talk about and ask questions about that I know nothing about.
awesome. You're a professional, though.
Oh, this is funny. All right.
I do have one thing that I wanted to mention to you too. We were talking about reincarnation, and I about a year ago I read this incredible book called Soul Survivor. Have you heard of it? It's um
Uh,
it's about a little boy that actually had the memories of a World War II fighter pilot, and
no.
he actually got to prove who the fighter pilot was, whose
Wasn't
memories
there
he
a
had.
movie like that?
I don't know if there's a well, there may have been, but I read the book. Um,
Hmm.
his parents actually conceived him on their honeymoon in Pearl Harbor. So my take on that was that when they were conceiving their child, the the spirit um, came back in the infant's body, basically, and that memory persisted until the child was about 5 or 6 years old, and then disappeared as he grew older. But the book is just amazing. The child knew intricate details of World War II aircraft at 4 and 5 years old. So you know that that's really not possible unless there's
Oh,
something else going on there. But it's well worth the read. I can't remember the author's name, but it
yeah.
was the parents of the boy.
Oh, sounds very intriguing. So earlier when we were talking about the dead. What came to me, and I didn't mention it, so I'm going to mention it now. Did you read the Book of Dead?
No, I have not.
That's a very interesting book, and so I highly recommend that one. And no, I don't know who the author is either. So now
Okay.
it's
Well,
it's
we're 1 for 1 then.
one yours, one mine. but it's about your stuff, so I think you probably want to read it. So or not. So I really enjoyed this time with you, Rob. You've been absolutely fascinating, and you're a very easy medium to speak with.
Okay. Medium rare.
Medium rare,
Yes.
just the way I like it. Uh,
Thank you, Steve.
so, so you've been a delight. I'm sure that everybody that watched live and everybody that's going to watch the replay, there's several things that you have presented to us that has definitely touched, moved, and inspired me. And I'm sure that same thing will happen with the viewers. And I want to make sure that everybody knows that you can go to our um, YouTube site, a YouTube page, and there's literally a couple of thousand shows there, and this show will be there by tomorrow. And the more you watch these shows, the more they get to the top 10 list every month. And if they do get to the top 10, they have the potential to go to public television, which is only just 100 million eyeballs.
Wow.
So I look forward to that to occur. And again, all I can say is, Rob, you are a very interesting, quote unquote, human being. Even that nobody knows where the heck that name came from, but we keep using it every day. And thank you very much for being on the network. And you definitely made the network just even more unique, because this is stuff that we don't talk about every day or every week or every month. This is kind of a very unique subject, and you are absolutely one of a kind. Thank you so much, Rob.
Thank you, Steve. I really enjoyed my time tonight.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you so much. Have a great evening, and everybody have a great weekend. And keep coming back next week. We're going to continue on our regular network time, consciousevolutionmedia.com. Thank you all. Have a great one. I love you all. Thank you. Adios.